Penn State, it's time. Penn State has been knocking on the door for seems like forever now. They're obviously one of the most talented teams in the country every single year. They're one of the best coached teams in the country every single year, but they can't seem to get over the hump, mainly in those big games against Ohio State, those Michigan teams, and now Oregon. I know we've had a little bit of disappointment from Penn State in these previous years, but I think if they don't get it done this year, the disappointment is going to be at an all-time high. I do think last year they took considerable strides forward to getting to the goal where they want to, which is a national championship, of course. And I think that starts with Drew Aller, the quarterback. Now, the stats might not indicate him improving or getting better in some regard, but I think he played a lot better this past season than a lot of people give him credit for. Even myself, I had to kind of go back and look at some stuff, but he played a hell of a season. His touchdown to interception ratio was a little bit worse, but he did improve in yards, completion percentage, and yards per play. And honestly, in the Penn State games that I watched, the moment he played a lot better in. The USC game, for example, they don't win that game without him executing and converting those fourth downs. Although he kind of put them in the hole to begin with, but that's neither here nor there. Look at the Big Ten championship game. Although they ended up coming up short in that game, he played a hell of a game and gave Penn State a real chance to win the Big Ten championship. Heading into this year, though, they returned not only Drew Aller, but their dynamic backfield of Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton, who combined for over 2,000 yards on the ground. They're going to be by far the best running back duo, running back room in the country. They also returned Denai Dennis-Sutton, Zakee Wheatley, A.J. Harris, guys like that who are a staple of the defense. And talking about Dennis-Sutton a little bit more, if it wasn't for how great Abdul Carter was, we'd be talking more about Denai Dennis-Sutton. He had 8.5 sacks himself this past season. He's a hell of a player. So he's back. You got Zion Tracy and, like I mentioned, A.J. Harris. They're back. Yes, they have a new DC in Jim Knowles, but look what he did with Ohio State. Whenever he gets his defenses all on the same page, his defenses are usually elite. But let's not kid ourselves. One of the top reasons, if not the top reason, why Penn State didn't get to where they want to get to and fulfill their potential was the wide receiver spot. Now, outside of Tyler Warren, they did not have a dynamic receiving room. In fact, in that Notre Dame game, the college football playoff semifinal, they had 0 catches between the entire receiving corps in a playoff game. That is inexcusable. That is unacceptable. And Penn State addressed it big time in the portal, bringing over Trevor Pena from Syracuse, Kyron Hudson from USC, and Devontae Ross from Troy. So Devontae Ross and Trevor Pena were number ones at their respective schools. So that's going to be interesting to see how they mesh. And take targets away from each other. Kyron Hudson was on a stacked wide receiver room back at USC, so this is something that he's used to. But all these guys, of course, are very talented, and it's going to be interesting to see how they get integrated into the offense. And it's year 2 in the Nittany system, so Alice should be a lot more comfortable, and that should dumb down the learning curve at least a little bit for the receivers, so that way they're on the same page. Luckily, their schedule is very light to start out, so they have time to experiment before they head into that big game, week 5, I believe, with Oregon. Speaking of their schedule, that is another reason why I think this year is the year. This year is prime for them. They have an easy non-conference slate. They have Nevada, they have FIU, and they have Villanova. And I'll say this right now, the college football playoff does not care what your non-conference schedule looks like. I shouldn't say they don't care. I should say they're not going to punish you for having a weaker non-conference schedule, but they will reward you if you have a tougher non-conference schedule, if that makes sense. And one nugget about Penn State's schedule is that before their biggest games, and we know Penn State struggles in the biggest games, right? Against the Ohio States, the Michigans, now the Oregons are included. They have a bye week before week 5 against Oregon. They have a bye week before the Ohio State game. Those are their 2 bye weeks before their 2 biggest games of the season. Now, I don't think you could script it up any better than that to give yourself some type of an advantage. Now, they have Oregon at home. They have Ohio State on the road. But they have both of those games right after a bye week. Gives them a week to prepare for both of these teams. That bye week before the Ohio State game is absolutely crucial because before that bye week, Penn State plays at Iowa, and that's going to be a very tricky game. We obviously know it's going to be a very physical game, more than likely very low scoring. And if there was no bye week between Iowa and Ohio State, they'd be in murky waters, I think. But I think having that bye week in between is just perfect for Penn State. I think it's going to be what they need in order to play at their best for that Ohio State game. And another thing I will say is, I did mention the continuity that Nittany and Drew Aller will have in year 2 of the system, right? The other 3 big dogs in the Big Ten, as far as talent goes at least, Ohio State, Oregon, and Michigan, those 3 teams are all starting new quarterbacks. And 2 of those 3 teams are starting new offensive coordinators. So they have a lot of questions to answer on the offensive side. Meanwhile, Penn State doesn't, at least on the offensive side. On the defensive side, obviously new coordinator, but their defense was elite last year. I don't see why their defense isn't going to be just as good, if not better, this season. So they have that advantage over those teams. Honestly, guys, if I wasn't a diehard Longhorns fan, if I was just a college football fan, I'd be rooting hard for Penn State because they're close. They are really, really close. They've improved. Last year, they took steps forward. This year, it's looking pretty nice for them. I'm not going to lie. I think all those things that I mentioned, the continuity with Aller and Nittany, and defense that's still going to be very good, even though they lost their star player. Just a quarterback in Drew Aller, who improved from his first year as a starter to his second year as a starter. A favorable schedule. I think it's time for James Franklin to win one of these games where the competition is pretty even. They have no problem beating the teams that they're supposed to beat. They have no problem beating teams that they're better than. A lot of teams in college football do. Penn State doesn't have that problem. Penn State has a problem of beating teams that are just as good as them or a little bit better than them. They don't ever beat the teams that are just a little bit better than them. And that has to change because they need to put themselves in that category too as one of those top teams. And you can't be in that category if you're losing to all of them that you play. So I think this year's the year for Penn State. I think if they don't win it this year, I don't know when they're going to win it. I'm not going to say that James Franklin's going to be on the hot seat or anything like that. He's been great. 95% of the college football world would kill to have James Franklin as their head coach. But I think this is the year. But y'all let me know down below what y'all think about Penn State. And what do you think their record is going to be this season, 2025? How far are they going to go? Y'all let me know down below. But this is Jimmy from CFB Enthusiasts, and I'm out. Peace.